This week would have marked the 50th birthday of the man who's been called the greatest reggae musician of all time. Our salute to Bob Marley coming up.
Casey counts them down. American Top 40.
On American Top 40, I'm Casey Kasem. Now we have a debut song by a young man whose father was the king of reggae music. Reggae is that distinctive music of Jamaica, with its heartbeat rhythms and deeply spiritual and political themes. The man who was mainly responsible for spreading reggae all over the world was Bob Marley. He was born in St. Anne's, Jamaica in 1945. When he was 14, he moved to Shantytown, the slums of the city of Kingston. In 1963, at the age of 18, Marley formed a group called the Wailers, along with legendary musicians like the late Peter Tosh and Bunny Livingston. And they began experimenting with the new reggae sound that was just beginning to develop. The Wailers became a huge success in Jamaica, and the rest of the world got to hear them in 1972 when Englishman Chris Blackwell signed them to Island Records and gave them international distribution. Their music began to influence rock musicians. Eric Clapton recorded a Marley song called I Shot the Sheriff, and it went to #1 here in the U.S. While Marley and the Wailers had top 40 hits around the world, including many hits in Britain, they barely charted here in the USA. But in 1976, they did hit number 51 on the pop chart, and here's a bit of that song.
Roots rock reggae, just reggae music.
Roots Rock Reggae by Bob Marley and the Wailers. By the start of the 80s, Marley's audience was spreading around the world, and through him, people discovered other great reggae musicians. But suddenly, at the height of his career, in May of 1981, he died of cancer. Bob Marley left more than a legacy of great music. He left children who, as teenagers, formed their own group, the Melody Makers. They're led by his eldest son, 19-year-old Ziggy Marley. And now Ziggy's done the one thing his father never did: make the top 40 in the USA. Debuting at number 39 on American Top 40, carrying on a name and a tradition. Here's Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, Tomorrow People.
Hold on, future.
Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, the children of reggae legend Bob Marley. They debut at number 39 with Tomorrow People as the countdown continues.
The hits from coast to coast. Casey's Top 40.
Every week, Casey's Top 40's heard coast to coast and around the world on great radio stations like WNCI. Picks you up and keeps you going, Columbus, Ohio. Z1077, the #1 radio station in the Morongo Basin, Joshua Tree, California. The Gulf Coast's hottest music, 105.9 KISS FM, Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, this week would have marked the 50th birthday of the man who's been called the greatest reggae musician of all time. Bob Marley was born in a small rural town in Jamaica. His mother was Jamaican, and his father was a British Army captain. From the time he was a child, Bob loved music. By his early teens, he was writing and performing, and when he was 16, Bob convinced a Kingston, Jamaica record producer named Leslie Kong to work with him. For the next 5 years, they turned out singles that became local hits. As time went on, Marley wanted more control over his music. He wanted to form his own label. But that took money, more money than he felt he could make in Jamaica. So the young reggae artist took off for Wilmington, Delaware, where his mother had moved several years before. Once there, Marley worked as a waiter and a forklift operator. And then he got a job on the assembly line at the local Chrysler plant. By the end of the year, he'd saved up enough money to return to Kingston and still have $700 left over, money he used to start the record label he dreamed of, a label he called Wailin' Soul. Next, Marley formed a group called the Wailers, and he began to record what are considered to be some of the best reggae songs of all time. Classics like Stir It Up, Get Up, Stand Up, I Shot the Sheriff, and No Woman, No Cry. Tragically, Bob Marley died of cancer in 1981 at the age of 36. But by then, he had become such a hero in Jamaica that he was given a state funeral with full honors, a funeral attended by an estimated 50,000 people. And that's our tribute to Bob Marley, a reggae legend born 50 years ago this week. We're counting down now to the song You Want This. It's by a superstar who loves to play the most popular board game of the 20th century, a game that's now become a big hit on computers. Details coming up.
Casey counts